15 points. Ballygunner are through to the All-Ireland Club Championship semi-finals in the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship. They have beaten the Piarsaigh 18 points to 15 by 3 points in the end to come through and win the game. This is the match reaction, so get your comments in. Let us know live what you think about this game and this result and everything else. And yeah, massive win. Massive congratulations to Ballygunner for getting over the line. I suppose, first of all, it was quite cagey. It was quite scrappy, I suppose you could say. It was quite nervy in some ways. Definitely not the greatest game of hurling. I don't think there's any getting away from that. It was, probably like a typical kind of hurling on a winter's day and everything else. It was quite scrappy. It was loose around the edges. It was stop-start. There was a lot of freeze and everything else. It wasn't the most fluid and the greatest game we'll ever see. I think neither side were really particularly at their best, if we're being honest. But do you know what? I think one thing that really stood out was the final 10 minutes from Ballygunner, because Ballygunner weren't great today. Look, they were under the cosh. I think the Piarsaigh were the better side in terms of creating chances. They missed more chances. They had a lot of opportunities in the Piarsaigh, a couple of half-goal chances here and there as well. And look, it was an even game throughout the majority, but I thought in the Piarsaigh, especially at the start of the second half, I thought they had them, to be honest with you. At the start of the second half, they really, really took over. They were running more at Ballygunner. They were getting in behind them, overlapping them, and they were causing problems. They were causing massive, massive problems. William O'Donoghue was getting in behind. Kevin Downs was getting in behind. And you felt like it was there for the Piarsaigh. But do you know what? What all the great teams do is they stand up when it matters the most. They stand up when it's needed. And that's exactly what Ballygunner were able to do. They were able to step up in those decisive moments, in those final 10 minutes. They actually outscored the Piarsaigh 5 points to 1 in the final 8 minutes. That's what it's all about. And especially with teams like Ballygunner, with Ballyhale Shamrocks down the years, with the great club teams, even if you wanted to bring that into inter-county football and hurling and everything else as well, especially with these teams, you're not always going to be at your vintage best every time. Do you know what I mean? There is going to be times where you're not at your best. And especially in those games, it's about stepping up a moment, and it's about getting yourself through it and finding the players to get themselves through it. And Harry Ruddle in particular at wing back, what a performance from him, 3 points. But in general, I thought Ballygunner defensively, especially their full back line, were brilliant. The Piarsaigh were floating a lot of long balls in on top of Stephen O'Keefe and Ian Kenny, especially in the first half. They were getting no joy with it at all. It took 10 minutes for the Piarsaigh to get their first point. Ian Kenny was absolutely outstanding. Aaron O'Neill was very, very good as well. And the Piarsaigh couldn't really get William Henn into the game. Adrian Breen was fairly quiet as well, 1 point from him. And I thought Ballygunner were outstanding in that kind of defensive aspect. It was probably more so going forward at times where they just couldn't really find their kind of grip or find their kind of flow in the game. And as I was saying, it was very, very scrappy. At half time, it's 9 points to 6. It's not a vintage game of hurling by any stretch of the imagination. It's kind of an interesting one. Was it conditions and everything else? Probably not. I think conditions were fairly good today. All things considered, considering the weather and everything else, I think conditions were fairly good. Neither side could just really, really settle into it. And, as we were saying, the start of the second half, a couple of big points from Ronan Lynch and Kevin Downs, and you're thinking, right, I think the Piarsaigh are onto this here. They were turning Ballygunner over. They were forcing Ballygunner into errors as well. A couple of times Ballygunner over carried it. I remember one moment in particular where Conor Sheehan got caught for over carrying. And the Piarsaigh will be kicking themselves though, because far too many wides in this game. Even looking at it here from our good friend Matthew Hurley, who posted stats up on his Instagram. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already. But from 33 shots, they scored 15. That's a 45% accuracy. 20 shots from play and only scored 7. So, in terms of shooting wise, they were way, way off the mark there in the Piarsaigh. In terms of shooting, you flip that the other way and look at Ballygunner. 30 shots from them, scored 18. And in terms of from play, this is the big one. 19 shots from play, scored 13. Scored 18 shots in total, 13 from play. So that's a huge difference. Ballygunner had less frees in the game as well, and the Piarsaigh had more frees. They were causing more errors in regards to that. Ballygunner far more efficient, far more clinical, and sometimes that's the difference between the good teams and the great teams. It's the final 10 minutes. You need your big players to step up, and the likes of Desi Hutchinson, outstanding in those kind of closing minutes. Harry Ruddle obviously stepping up as well. Patrick Fitzgerald getting a point. Peter Hogan as well. So those final 10 minutes when it's kind of make or break time can very often be the difference between the great teams and the good teams. And the Piarsaigh will be absolutely kicking themselves though, because they had the chances, too many silly wides, silly frees. Like even looking at it from Kevin Downs as well, like who scored 6 points, 5 of them from place balls, but 9 misses in total, 3 of them from place balls. So a little bit disappointing there from his perspective. Just running through the scores then. So we have this screenshot up here from Score BO. So this is the Piarsaigh side, so you can kind of see some of the scores on the screen there. Shout out to Score BO as well, like always doing great work and everything else. This is not a promotion, but I like to call out the good guys when I see it, and Score BO do great work in regards to that. So yeah, looking at the Piarsaigh scores there, Kevin Downs with 6 points, Peter Casey with 3, Adrian Breen with 1 point. It's fair to say they couldn't really get their forwards into the game. Ronan Lynch with 3 points, and then points from Tommy Grimes and Connor Boylan as well. And flipping that over then to the Ballygunner team, as we'll see there on screen, you've got Patrick Fitzgerald with 4 points, Mikey Mahoney ended up scoring 2, Peter Hogan with a point, Mark Hartley with 2 as well, who was very impressive. Desi Hutchinson with 5. Like, it was a weird game for Desi Hutchinson. He scored 5 points in total. And it's weird. I think he only might have had about 5 shots. Like, he wasn't really in the game too much. But when he did have the ball, he made something happen more often than not, in terms of scoring. Harry Ruddle was outstanding though, 3 points from him. Man of the match as on TG Cahir. So very, very good and impressive performance. But yeah, whilst a lot of the time it's about scoring and everything else, I do think Ballygunner's defence needs massive, massive praise, in my opinion. Ian Kenny was phenomenal. Tyke Foley as well. Stephen O'Keefe as well. Like he got played a bit of a hairy pass towards the end, I think, from Peter Hogan. And he had to come out and collect it under massive pressure when the Piarsaigh were going for the goal. So that could have been, a little bit nervy and a little bit ropey there, but they managed to kind of pull through it, in fairness. And they came through it and they get the win. And look, it's on to Stars now in the next round. So we'll see obviously what happens in regards to that. It's not going to be an easy game. There's no question. We saw obviously what happened last season and everything else. Desi Hutchinson was very quick to reference that in terms of what happened last season, being caught and everything else in that game. So look, Ballygunner will be wide up for it. Stars, I'm sure, would have watched this game and everything else. And look, I think Stars will have watched this and taken confidence as well from the fact that Ballygunner weren't exactly brilliant in terms of their attack. They struggled to kind of get going on that sort of aspect. Obviously missing Porrick Mahoney as well. Desi Hutchinson had to kind of step in terms of taking the free. So far from perfect from a Ballygunner perspective, but they get over the line, they get the job done, and ultimately they do get the win as well. And look, that's what champions do, in fairness. But look, yeah, that's going to be the match reaction. Hit the like button and subscribe if you could. Let us know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments. We will be back a little bit later on tonight as well, 8 o'clock, myself and the lads, to dissect and review all the games, club championship action. Certainly a lot to discuss and break down and everything else. You had big wins for a tie earlier. Watch that game. They were brilliant, weren't they, against Baltinglass? Very, very impressive. Played really, really well, in fairness, and probably silenced some of the doubters, including me. So I think the tie definitely need to be taken seriously there. Summerhill were very good as well. Big win for them versus Kilo. You had Dunloy getting beat by Newbridge. You had Loughrea winning the Galway Championship. Rathcormac winning Waterford. So, yeah, certainly a lot to break down, discuss, and everything else. So, we'll be back a little bit later on, 8 o'clock. Be there, and we'll speak then. Chat to you all later.